Hey there, Internet. Keeve here, and welcome to the Cars and Keeve YouTube channel. And in this video, we're going over some new products from Griots. Their newly anticipated spray gun, the Boss pressure washer spray gun, and then obviously we have their nozzle guards. Their nozzle guards are only available in 2.5s and 4.0s. It's very bulky. It's much bigger. It reminds me more of like you get a cut-off shotgun. You basically took like the spray gun out of the box from a Ryobi and just kind of cut it off and put a quick connect. That's what it looks like. That's not what it is. That's what it looks like because it is so bulky. You see when I open this up, how much just so much extra plastic and stuff going on here that I don't think is really needed. It is a more elongated version compared to the other ones. We're going to show you a whole bunch of other spray guns. Now, they did change a few things from the box picture, the picture on the website, so I don't know if this is already into its version 2. Here's a picture of the gun. As you can see, the biggest thing here is you see the quick connect. It looks like it is a female type screw down onto maybe a male end. I can't really tell. And then down here at the bottom, you can see there is much less thread exposed on this plug. That is an integrated quick connect. It is built into the line that's here. I'm pretty sure it screws in. I'm pretty sure it's thread locked like crazy. And then down here at the bottom, you can see how much more threads and the Teflon exposed down here at the bottom of the plug. You can also see that the safety switch here is red, and on this one, it is black. This is somewhat of an advantage for you because you really don't need to replace this. They have a lifetime guarantee. If it fails, you're more than likely going to be able to send this to them and get a new one. I don't like the trigger. This full piece right here. I've heard they said that it's this way because it causes less pinching. I've never had pinching issues on an SGS-28 gun ever. I have had pinching issues on the McKillens and the Active if you don't set your fingers right. So these are those pinch zones. So this is my fat hand. There's your first pinch. You see the bevel on the trigger here and the curvature here. That leads to the pinch zone on this side. You get your fingers just right there. You get your fingers like this. The back side of, right there can pinch. It's pinching right there, and it's a bite pinch. The SGS you see is a much thicker non-curved piece, and this part is completely flat. It does have kind of a pinch zone. As you can see, it's wide open, but also you can't go further in, so you can't get all the way down plastic on plastic. Unlike this, where if you push hard enough, you are plastic on plastic for that bite pinch. The Griots, obviously, I think this is what they're trying to avoid, is the pinch on the fat of your hand, because obviously you cannot pinch that part of your hand at all. I can feel this annoying pinch from where this plastic comes into the unit. My finger right there, annoying pinch. If I do it this way, annoying pinch on the back half of my fingers here. I'd say maybe 2, maybe even 3 times the pulling tension of an SGS-28 or a McKillens. Now, a lot of people like this because with an SGS-28, the trigger is so light that you can accidentally spray yourself or spray without meaning to. So there are reasons some people like tension. Now, this one does have a straight angle, which a lot of people like as well. It's kind of a 50-50 between the MTM and this one. The McKillens is straight as well, and the Active is more straight. So when you put your arm straight out, the line of the nozzle is dead straight at the car. Now, an SGS-28 is slightly turned up. So when I want to spray, I have to angle my hand down. That does build tension. But for me, the lightness of the trigger makes up for that. And obviously, towards the bottom of the car, on these with the straight, I'm having to angle up. It just depends on your washing methods. Very satisfying push. It has the tension you need, but it's also, it just feels great. Like, it feels pretty quality. That is very quality right there. And that's what I come to expect from Griots, just based off of the Boss foam canning and in many other products. The quality of the materials has never been the question. Like I said, you have your 2.5 and your 4.0. You have your 15 degree, 25 degree, and your 40 degree. These are very nice. They're very, very, very soft. So you see on the Quick Connect, it is numbered 2.5. Also on the very front, as you can see, it's measured as a 4025. They're about $35 a piece though, but you can buy a pack of 3 for 75 bucks. These boxes are really nice, like Apple style. Look at this. So you can put your nozzle guard in there. It fits perfect. This is a really nice dense foam. When you put this back in, Not only is it available for storage, but it is very nicely labeled on the side. So if you have them stacked up, you know which is which. So here are your competitors. And the biggest problem for Griots is Griots is overpriced themselves out of this category. You may think this is better than this. This is better than this, or vice versa. I think it has a lot to do with hand size. The Active has a very abrupt stop right here. It goes this way, so that way if you have really big hands, you only have this small of an area to put your hand in. The Griots has that much less angle, so a bigger hand can move up and down and not be forced into a corner. The Macmillan's is the same way as the Active. It has a very abrupt end right here to where my hand can only fit on there so much. The SGS-28 has a more angled end right here, so it's not as abrupt this way, so you do have a little more room for your hand. So here's the difference in the SGS-28 as we line up here. We're lined up on the handle on the back side. Top to bottom slightly, but you see the angle difference. The SGS-28 is pointing up. The Griots is pointing much more straight, but look at all the extra bulk and length on that side. I don't think that's needed. The angle around the trigger is actually slightly less on the Griots. And when it's pulled in, the Griots pulls in further because the stopper on the SGS-28 is on the outside. So here's the Swivel Gun Pro. As you can see, just that bulkiness out here at the end. I think the Quick Connect is much more seated, obviously, compared to the SGS-28 as well. I like that feature. I just don't like all this extra bulk here. The Griots is actually smaller on the inside of the trigger as well. Now, bigger hands may have a problem reaching in there. The swivel, obviously, is slightly different. The Macmillan's is slightly smaller and less out there. So here's the Active. Here's the most drastic difference. You can see how the Active is more squared. The Griots trigger area is much smaller. But when you meet up down here, see the difference in the swivel? That makes this up here. But look at the hand size. There's very little hand area compared to the Griots. It goes all the way up here. That's why all this extra space up here. But look at the Active. Why is it so bulky for being so small? And then look at all this extra out here on the Griots. Now, I've done some things. I've really modified this Active. I have dremeled, beveled the edges, fixed a lot of areas, took some weight off. The Griots has 8 screws. That is a T20 Torx. The SGS-28 is a T15 Torx. And it only has 6 screws. The Griots, they're magnetic. So I don't know if it's zinc plated steel or if it's just straight steel. It looks like it has some kind of coating. Like I said, the MTM is stainless. Just be careful if you're taking the Griots apart. On the inside, the safety is right here. You want to make sure that goes back in the right orientation. Obviously, the trigger is slightly different with this bigger housing. Let's open up the SGS-28, which looks like stainless steel to some, and some people have said on videos that it is. I did it one time too, but it is not. It is nickel-plated brass on the inside here. So there's your difference. See that angle of this shooting out. You see this is much more straight, but see how much longer this is, and the design difference in the manifold, how this is kind of like 2 separate pieces kind of together in a mold, and this is just one singular piece, and a much smaller shaft on this. And you can see how they're done internally. Slightly different how it sits, but this is circular. This has the nut here at the bottom. You see at the top, this comes out and then the Quick Connect screws in. There is a gap here. I'm not a big fan of that. So you see integrated Quick Connect into this piece here. Well, we're going to the magnet test and maybe it isn't stainless steel. I thought it was, but now looking at it, it looks formed. So here is your MTM, and we know that this is all stainless here. We know that this is all nickel-plated brass. We have nothing magnetic going on here, but this shaft here, it does have a slight magnetic to it. So there may be something inside of this piece on the SGS-28 that is not all stainless. This is stainless. There's no resistance here. This shaft has slight bit of magnetic to it. This has none. Down here, none. But check this out. This has a lot of resistance. Like even if I measure, see how my magnet's moving around, there's a lot of metal in here. I don't think that's stainless manifold. I did go into it, but that could just be some kind of steel. I don't know. Griots, let us know. but the magnet is sticking to it. And obviously with the brass, it's not over here. So before we get any further, check out the links below for anything in the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let's get to testing. So I forgot to film me weighing them, but the Active and the Mikkelin Swivel Pro are about the same. The Active is 1.52 pounds and the Swivel Pro was 1.48 pounds. The SGS-28 was 1.36 pounds. The Griots was 1.6 pounds, so much heavier than the others. So this 25-degree 4.0 with the Griots Boss. Now, like I said, 4.0 is a little bit low for an Active 2.3. Should be at 4.5. 4.2, I think, is as low as you can go. We're definitely going to overamp, but we have a 20 amp circuit, so we'll be okay for a small period of time. Safety goes out. Very nice spray pattern. I was expecting nothing less with the quality of the materials. So under pressure, so you can't judge the swivel without the pressure because the pressure is where it matters. That's the only time you're gonna be really using this swivel is when it's fully pressurized. But man, yes, that is a nice swivel at any angle. The amount of weight is not affecting it at all. The MTM is a lot like the Griots. It is so smooth when it's on here, but the Griots definitely spins a little bit freer. It doesn't have that looseness. This spins well, regardless of the angle. It definitely is slightly more tense than the Griots. Active, pressurized. Let's see the swivel. Yeah, that's what I remember about the Active. The swivel was better than the MTM. It just feels a little bit better. I don't know if it necessarily spins better at any angle. Here's your Mikkelin Pro. Pressurized. Yeah, that's nice. I would say like all these are pretty close. The Griots might be the quicker swivel. They all feel about the same smoothest wise no matter what angle they're at. So for the amount of pressure to pull down here, we have our trigger pressure measuring device right here in pounds and ounces. So we're just going to measure all these from the bottom leverage. So about like 2 pounds, 3 ounces, 2 pounds, 4 ounces of force to keep it held all the way up against while it's fully pressurized. Pulling it when it's pressurized is more of an on-off kind of a thing. See how it's just on and it's just different in the pull versus when it's not pressurized. Active compared to the Mikkelins has a much more linear pull. The Mikkelins was like an on-off. It was like, once I got to a pull point, it was like all the way in. This one has a much more linear pull. We can actually see how much force it takes to get fully pulled and how much it is to keep it held down. 2 pounds, 6 ounces to keep it pulled down and to pull it down. So, you know, there's some have a big difference in the tension to pull versus tension to hold. Here's the SGS-28. It's kind of like the Active, a little more linear. So about 13 ounces to pull down. And once it got there, it took about 1 pound and 1 ounce to keep it held. There's just barely any tension there at all. All right, here's the Griots. And it's a very linear pull. That's a lot of tension. Almost 6 pounds to pull it all the way down. But it doesn't feel like 6 pounds when you're using your whole hand because this is just a single point on the pendulum effect here, not my whole hand pulling it. So let's see how long it takes to keep it held down. About the same, about like 5 pounds, 13 ounces. But I do like the angle of this. Like it's, when I'm straight, it's almost angled down a little bit like this. But like I said, that's really great for here, top of the car. You're not having to turn your wrist as much. Right here, if it's exposed, then we're just shooting down, right? But if we want to get that under part of the car, we're really going to have to angle up or turn upside down and pull the trigger this way to get under the car. With the SGS-28, when I'm down here, my angle is already shooting that direction. So I can do the hole under the car just like this. But when you're up here, the angle is shooting that way. So in order to shoot straight, I do have to turn the wrist. All right, they're 25 degree, 4.0 on the active 2.3. About right at about 1,000, maybe like 1,005, which makes me wonder because with a 4.0, I should be much higher than that. Here's my 4.0, and this is from Northern Tool. These are made in the USA. These, based off of the 0 degrees of these are much more accurate orifice-wise. I don't have a 0 degree of these to be able to measure that true circular orifice, so we have to kind of rely on pressure. Wow, 1,240. That says it's a 4.0. This is a 4.0. So this is a 4.6 from active. 975. So a 4.6 is slightly more, 4.5 right at 1,000, 4.6 at like 975. That sounds about right. I think this is a 4.5 and not a 4.0. But this is a 4.2 from Big Boy. This was their fixed to the Duo unit over amping at 1,115. So no matter what degree they are, the pressure should not change. About like 980 something. So very consistent to a degree to the other one, closer to like what a 4.5 would do. That one's like 1,025. So there's definitely variation between the three on the 4.0. Let me grab another nozzle. So this is my test nozzle 4.5. This should be right around 1,000. 1,010. The good thing is it's not acting lower than it says. If it says it's a 4.0 and it acts like a 3.5, then you'd be much more concerned with the amperage draw on your machine. If it's a 4.0 and acting like a 4.5, then most people aren't gonna be able to tell the difference between the two. Okay, so sneak preview to a future video. This is a new Amazon spray foamer. This is an air compressor style. We've been torture testing this for a little over a week, like 8 days now. Always pressurized, always 5-to-1 brake buster. We never relieve the pressure. We always leave it in there. We spray the panel once per day with the whole solution. So we're leaving chemicals in areas. We're doing all kinds of stuff to make sure we're torture testing that this thing is lasting. And this one right here is doing pretty well. My battery just died, so 8 days in, I have lost my compression. It is not doing anymore, so we definitely found how long the battery can last between washes. This just give you an idea with the 40 degree, just what it feels like spraying with an active 2.3. And some of you who have noise concerns about 2.3, this is what it sounds like. You see the Hydrolite coating? Still rocking, being sprayed daily with brake buster, which you shouldn't put on paint. And you can see the uncoated part. This is the 2.5 on the Craftsman. A 2.5 should get 1,000, probably more than 1,000. I even like using a 3.0 sometimes on a Craftsman. 600 PSI. So yellow, it's got a 2.5 on here. Like 620, you can hear the machine. 600. It's definitely, I'm thinking this is more like a 3.5 or even closer to a 4.0, and the 4.0 is a 4.5. That's pretty far off. Let's try the test nozzle 2.5. 1,010. You hear the difference in the machine? So this is a 3.5, and I'm just telling you, with these test nozzles, compared to other ones that are in the same size range, they are very consistent. This is the biggest difference I've seen in a stated size versus what the performance should be for it versus, you know, the test nozzle. So a 3.5 gets about almost 700. So like a 3.7 or 3.8, it's acting like the 2.5. That's pretty far off. But like I said, the good thing is it's off in the wrong direction. But you're over here thinking you're gonna get 1,000 PSI because somebody in a video said, hey, run a 2.5, should get you 1,000. You'll be right where you want to be. You get the Griots 2.5 and it's acting at 600 PSI. But I don't know if they need to check their quality control or they need to look into these. In my opinion, something is off here. If you like the bulkiness, you like the length, then you might like the Griots gun. The swivel's nice. I don't like the tension. It's a bit much. And they just came out with kind of a like, kind of a product, just like the battery foamer. So there you go. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out the links below for anything in the video. And I'll see you in the next video. When you put this... Where's my nozzle guard? Oh, I put it back in the box. You're so dumb. So before we get into the testing, don't forget to check out the links. Oh my gosh. So before we get into testing, don't forget to check the links. So before we get into testing. So before we get into the testing, don't forget. So before we get into the testing, don't forget to check out. What am I doing? So before we get any further video, don't forget to check it. I'm psyching myself out. So before we get any further into the video, don't forget to check out. So before any, oh my gosh.